Okay, now we've seen that market fluctuations can actually cause price fluctuations. Now let's recap that and let's give some attention to what's going to happen in the long run. Remember, a time frame during which we can alter all factors of production. So consider an increase in demand, a change in taste and preferences. Consider the fact that the market price has risen, and for the individual firm, the emergence of what we call short-run economic profits. Okay? So in the short run, it is possible for our firm to be enjoying short-run economic profits. So remember, costs, revenues, and our little green rectangle represents short-run economic profits. Okay, what's going to happen? Remember, we talked several clips ago about the role of the price mechanism. Remember, prices have two major functions, a rationing function and a guiding function. So what are we saying here? What we're saying is that the existence of rising prices, which have created these economic profits, will send out a little signal to potential entrepreneurs and say, look, bring your resources this way into this industry and you'll make more money. So resources will be guided into this activity because we want them to be. Now remember, we were operating, don't forget, initially at this level. So we're devoting land, labour and capital to producing QE. Now we have to devote more resources to producing a higher level of output. Plus, we're going to see that the existence of economic profits will actually attract new firms to the industry, attract new players. And remember, one of the key features of a purely competitive market, no barriers to entry. So entrepreneurs can switch their resource allocation into this industry quite quickly. And what do we see here? What we see now is that the market price falls, the quantity being supplied rises to QE. So here we've got an additional expansion of output in the whole industry. But of course, for the individual firm, the downward movement of price means a downward movement of average revenue and marginal revenue. And we find that now the price-taking firm is back to where we would have expected, namely what we call long-run equilibrium, where our price, our average revenue and marginal revenue are at the minimum of ATC. Now, what happens if there's a decrease in demand? We'll have a look at that, but I need a new board. Okay, we're back with a fresh model. What are we showing in this one? A decrease in demand. So market forces, remember, whatever's caused this to happen, whatever non-price determinant has forced our demand to shift to the left, it's created a lower price. And again, remembering that the individual firm, the price taker, must accept that price. They can't do anything to avoid that price. So this represents what we would call short-run economic losses. How do we know that? Quantity OQM is generating a revenue of OP1 YQM, that's revenue. But it's costing, here we go again, that quantity of output up to our ATC, it's costing 0PMQM. We are incurring, in this particular case, short-run economic losses. What's the likely outcome here? What's the likely outcome here? The likely outcome is the reverse of what we saw before. I mean, clearly this is a massive disincentive, but more importantly, some firms may find themselves in the position of they'll just walk away. Some firms will say, I can't see myself making even normal profits in the long run here. So, and as they do, these firms, as they exit the market, so whereas previously we saw them entering the market, firms exit the industry, and of course that's a key non-price determinant of supply, namely the number of suppliers. So here they go, leaving the industry, and of course that leftward shift of supply means that the market price rises back up. And of course, as it rises back up, we find that the individual firm is again operating at a position of what we call normal profit. So MR's now, we'll call it MR1, MR, MC. Of course, there's less firms competing, there's more room for the individual firm to increase their output a little bit because there's a need for them to fill the void by these firms exiting. So what have we discovered? The existence of economic profits attracts new players, so there's firms entering the industry. The existence of economic losses causes some firms to exit the industry, and the prices will adjust accordingly. But where do we find ourselves? Again, this really magical little point here. At this point, the minimum of ATC, we've got an intriguing little point of triple equality where price equals average revenue. We know that that's true for all firms, equals marginal revenue. This is true for only purely competitive firms, and of course equals marginal cost, and of course equals minimum ATC, because we know that our marginal cost curve by arithmetic necessity goes through here. So what we'll talk about at some stage in the future is that in our little triple equality here we can identify two really important little snippets. P equals minimum ATC, we call that productive efficiency, and P equals MC, we call that allocative efficiency, and we only find it in pure competition.